class has some tabs for me, just because I do have, I've taken one Shakespeare class and then I'm in another one currently. And so I do need a few tabs to keep me on track with where we are reading from class to class. And so this, of course, doesn't label out all of them, but there's a few. Hopefully, the candle is not too loud, but from what I can hear in my own ears, it is maybe a little bit too fast-paced in the way it's crackling. And so I think I may blow it out for now and replace it with another little candle I have burning here with me. Please let me know if you like the sound of it. And I will continue using it in future videos. The woodwick, otherwise, I'll stick to maybe quieter pieces. So give me a second. But I love that sound personally. I think that's so cozy, like you're sitting by a campfire, right? But for now, that is okay. Maybe it is better for the purpose of the whisper. And here I will replace it with this little baby delight. Lovely. Yes. As I mentioned in one of my videos, my Get to Know Me Penguin books. That's where I'm always at for the classical literature. I'd like to show you the inside page though. It's so beautiful. That was really pretty. Like, it's always a fun little treat to open it and see that. Alrighty, we are prepared to do some reading. Now, I have, of course, not gone through all of Shakespeare's works. And just as a little note, I have been wanting to do some other reading videos as well. However, I understand that many works that I would like to get into are not in the public domain, and so they would have copyright issues. You know, it's like you're reading something you normally pay for free. And so YouTube would have issues with that. But I'm thinking of doing another video on poetry sometime, hopefully, because there is one subscriber on here, which I appreciate and value very much, but they requested that I read a poem regarding the naming of cats, and I haven't forgotten about that. I'd love to incorporate that into an entire video, and so I'd like to do something with poetry sometime soon. If you see the glare in my glasses, I do apologize, but I like to be able to see. That is a nice thing. So, page 59 is Shakespeare's sonnets. Hopefully I'll find sonnet 18. I know that's pretty popular. Let's see. Doing some page turning. nature's changing course untrimmed, but thy eternal summer shall not fade, nor lose possession of that fair thou owest. Nor shall death brag thou wanderest in his shade, when in eternal lines to time thou growest. So long as men can breathe, their eyes can see, so long lives this, and this gives life to thee. So, this, consists of I think it's the quatrains. So there's 4 sets of rhymes, essentially. And so we've got an A, B, A, B, C, D, C, D, E, F, E, F, and then you have the couplet to finish it off, which is the 2 lines at the very end that rhyme. And in 18, what this sort of speaks of is comparing a woman to the summer's day, which in looking at it realistically can be fleeting. Summer will not last forever, and even sometimes, like he says, sometime too hot the eye of heaven shines, and often is his gold complexion dimmed. Sometimes the sun can be too hot and overbearing, and sometimes the clouds can come over and cover the sun, cover the shine. But they would relate the summer to an eternal summer, where they don't fade, where she does not leave or pass, and she does not dim. So that's lovely. Let's see what else. I know there is one from Romeo and Juliet in here. Let's see. We're gonna read. After this, we'll get into Hamlet, and I'll talk a little bit about Hamlet and what it happens, essentially, just so that you don't have to have prior knowledge of it. I've got you covered. Let's read Sonnet 40 of Shakespeare. Take all my loves, my love, yea, take them all. What hast thou then more than thou hadst before? No love, my love, that thou mayest true call love, that thou mayest true love call. All mine was thine before thou hadst this more. Then, if for my love thou my love receivest, I cannot blame thee for my love thou usest, but yet be blamed if thou this self deceivest, by wilful taste of what thyself refusest. I do forgive thy robbery, gentle thief, although thou steal thee all my poverty, and yet love knows it is a greater grief to bear love's wrong than hate's known injury. Lascivious grace, in whom all ill will shows, kill me with spites, yet we must not be foes. Wow, that's actually very pretty. I like that. I'm not even gonna lie to you though, I was running out of breath. But that's okay. That is okay. So, let us go to Hamlet. Oh wait. Maybe I can read another one. I'm getting pulled in, you guys. Where are the men saying this today? Oh. You need to be at my doorstep reciting this, okay? Don't tell me you want my Snapchat. You need to tell me that I am the eternal summer. We're going to Hamlet. We're getting there. I still have I'm sure many, many, many of you are well familiarized with the existence, at the very least, of Hamlet. But it's absolutely okay if you are unfamiliar with what it actually is about, you know? So, there's a lot of random stuff going on here. Okay. So, Hamlet is a tragedy. Shakespeare's plays consist of, I guess, 3 categories. The first one is the romantic comedy, or you could just say comedy. But the comedy that would relate to these plays is not related to how we view comedy today. Comedy just sort of relates to the idea that his works are moving from disordered and chaotic, some sort of obstacle, and then you eventually reach a sense of resolve and completion, satisfaction, and there's almost always union regarding marriages and love. So there's comedies, and then it goes to, is it histories or tragedies after? Either way, it doesn't matter. And then there are histories. I think that's next. Histories are not necessarily true to the exact historical timeline of, what he portrays in the plays. For example, a lot of the people that would have been alive in his play wouldn't have also been alive at the same time as other characters. And so he'll kind of go through different bloodlines and kind of mesh people into the works. But that doesn't, detract from anything. It's just to say that you can't take his works literally in order to learn about the history. And they're also very, they're meant to send a message to the audience of his time. Like in the Elizabethan era, so whoever was king or queen, whatever it may be, he's not going to put on a play that's going to get his head chopped off, He's going to play to the Tsar, essentially. And then you've got the tragedies, in which Hamlet is one of. The tragedies just indicate that there's going to be death, and that you're going to work from either good to death, or all bad obstacles into even worse obstacles, death. So, there are bad endings. You come to accept them, and that is okay. Much like, Romeo and Juliet, you can't even hope for them. You can hope for them a little bit, but you're told right away in the beginning by the chorus that they are fated lovers, star-crossed lovers that are going to die, and that are going to reconcile the feud between their 2 families. But you're given it right off the bat, so you can't hope for them. The tragical history of Hamlet, Prince of Denmark. Now, I find it a little silly that he likes to put tragical history, so he puts history in there, because this is indeed not a history of anything. Hamlet is not real. But he's got stuff on like Julius Caesar and stuff, so that's real, but it's, drama. But here, in the tragedy of Hamlet, what ensues is King Hamlet, who is Prince Hamlet's father, Claudius reveals himself to be indeed King Hamlet and speaks to Hamlet, Prince Hamlet, about how he must be avenged. And so Hamlet sort of sets out, already depressed because of the death of his father and the quick marriage between King Claudius and Gertrude. Gertrude is Prince Hamlet's mother. So already he's seeing his uncle marry his mother a week after his father died. And so he decides, in order to really solidify that the ghost was telling the truth, and King Claudius did indeed kill Hamlet, King Hamlet, Prince Hamlet decides to set up a play to reveal the intentions of King Claudius and to reveal his guilt that may be hidden under the surface. And so there's this dynamic that Shakespeare utilizes often, of the play within a play. And so the play that he sets up is called The Mousetrap, which is quite fitting for its purpose. And Hamlet comes to realize that as he's creating the play, or not as he's creating the play, as it's being put on, King Claudius reacts aversely to the scene in which it's reenacted that Hamlet's father is being killed. And so that was the reaction he was looking for. Like, would King Claudius show any guilt when he saw a scene of somebody being killed? You know, would that awaken something in him that maybe he had tried to push away, regarding his own guilt for killing his brother? And so it does, and then it goes on to this whole issue of Hamlet wanting to feign madness and to pretend that he is going crazy because of accumulating depression and frustration and angst. But in reality, he's feigning madness because he does not want anybody to figure out that he's plotting to kill Claudius. And since it is a tragedy, we will inevitably come to see that Prince Hamlet dies. Claudius dies. Gertrude dies. Laertes, who was the brother to, what was her name? Is it Ophelia? Laertes was the brother to Ophelia. He was very protective. He too died. If anything, it was him and Hamlet that had challenged one another to fight. But it was planned that Laertes would have poison on the edge of his sword to kill Hamlet. But Hamlet ended up grabbing hold of Laertes' sword as they ended up switching them on accident. And so they were both pierced with the end of the sword. And it was assumed that should Hamlet win the duel with Laertes, King Claudius would ensure Hamlet still died because he had poisoned wine to give him following the fight, and so he would for sure die. But Hamlet did not drink it, and instead Gertrude drank it, the mother. Now I think it could be debated whether she knew it was poisoned and drank it out of her own guilt, because she understood what was going on and that her son would be killed in some way, or if she accidentally drank it, and that's just the entire fate of the tragic nature of this piece, is that they had to die one way or another. But what I would like to actually read from here is this to be or not to be soliloquy. Should I use the proper term? I love how long his works are. I think Hamlet, honestly, the back and forth is pretty limited. Like, it feels like you can read for a long time. Let's see. I'm tired, you guys. This is making me sleepy. For the work that I did in my Shakespeare class this semester, I studied Hamlet in an adaptation, which was the 2000 Almerida version of Hamlet, which was like a modern or postmodern New York setting with like a big tech company, and it had Ethan Hawke. It had, what was her name? Oh no, I'm forgetting. But she was from 10 Reasons All the Reasons I Hate You, 10 Reasons I Hate You, something like that. Is that what it's called? I don't know. It's a lead woman, lead female in there. She's got like dirty blonde hair. It's slipping my mind, sorry. But yeah, it's got those people in there. It's got the like well-known scene where Ethan Hawke is just walking through a blockbuster while delivering the to be or not to be speech. And they put him in the action aisle, which I guess, like, sure, it's a cute nod at the actual background behind the to be or not to be. Like, he's debating taking action, but it just looked really silly. Like, he just had a really silly little wool hat on, and like, it was quiet in there. Nothing was going on besides him talking to himself about to be or not to be. Like, sir, this is a blockbuster. Alright. And then I will also read on the get thee to a nunnery line. I love Shakespearean insults. They're so fun. Okay. So just before this, the King Claudius and Polonius hide behind mirrors. Or actually, I don't think it's behind mirrors. They just hide. I'm thinking of the Kenneth Branagh adaptation. So, all from Hamlet. To be or not to be, that is the question. Whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or to take arms against a sea of troubles, and by opposing end them, to die, to sleep, no more, and by sleep to say we end the heartache, and the thousand natural shocks that flesh is heir to. 'Tis a consummation devoutly to be wished, to die, to sleep, perchance to dream. Aye, there's the rub. For in that sleep of death, what dreams may come, when we have shuffled off this mortal coil, must give us pause. There's the respect that makes calamity of so long life. For who would bear the whips and scorns of time, the oppressor's wrong, the proud man's contumely, the pangs of despised love, the law's delay, the insolence of office, and the spurns that patient merit of the unworthy takes, when he himself might disquiet us make with a bare bodkin, who would fardels bear, to grunt and sweat as in the entire realm of literature expresses, there's definitely room to really try to understand what it is that he might be afraid of here, or what it is that he's exactly debating. Because it doesn't just have to be the idea of inaction or action, but there's also the idea of the afterlife here. And a lot of people also see this as maybe just a blunt statement of, should I end my life or should I not end my life? Which, he does indeed debate. I think a lot of what he debates maybe in the final bit of that soliloquy is that there's a lot of fear of what comes from death. So if he were to take his own life, what would come from that? And is that really enough to stop him from taking action on killing Claudius? Or will he have to live with the guilt and the frustration of sparing Claudius and letting him live instead, for the sole fact that he is a coward and cannot act on killing him? So there's a lot of self-reflection in there for Hamlet. But then, Hamlet at this point is afraid that everybody is out to get him, which is a reasonable thought, because Claudius killed his father. So why wouldn't Claudius kill him too? And so, even for Ophelia, for whom he loved, he decides that he cannot trust her either. And he responds to her with a lot of aggression and denial of his love for her, which further enhances his strange facade. And so he denies her completely, but this is unfortunately what does lead to Ophelia's death, where she drowns herself because of the rejection and mainly the pain of losing her father. Her father dies because Hamlet irrationally kills him because he thought that Ophelia's father was King Claudius spying on him. It wasn't. And so she kind of has just accumulating things about depression. She ends her life. But back to when Ophelia meets with Hamlet. She says, "My honored lord, you know right well you did, and with them words of so sweet breath composed, as made the things more rich, their perfume lost. Take these again, for to the noble mind rich gifts wax poor, when givers prove unkind. There, my lord." And she says this because Hamlet denies that he gave her any notes and any physical items, when it's very clear that he did, but he's putting on this mad facade. And he says to her a couple lines down, that if you be honest and fair, your honesty should admit no discourse to your beauty. She says, "Good beauty, my lord, have better commerce than thy honesty." And Hamlet, "I truly, for the power of beauty will sooner transform honesty of sinners. I am myself indifferent, honest, but yet I could accuse me of such things that it were better my mother had not borne me. I am very proud, revengeful, ambitious, with more offences at my beck than I have thoughts to put them in, imagination to give them shape, or time to act them in, which should such fellows as I do crawling between earth and heaven. We are runt names all, believe none of us. Go thy way to a nunnery. Where's your father? At home, my lord. Let the doors be shut upon him, that he may play the fool nowhere but in his own home. Farewell. And she replies, Oh, help him, you sweet heavens. And Hamlet, if thou dost marry, I'll give thee this plague for thy dowry. Be thou as chaste as ice, as pure as snow. Thou shalt not escape calumny. Get thee to a nunnery. Farewell. Or if thou wilt needs marry a fool. For wise men know well enough what monsters you make of them. To a nunnery go, and quickly do. Farewell. Wow. That was a little rude, I don't know. Hamlet's just all melancholy and sad and depressed. It's a little funny, but it's not. And in Act 3, Scene 2, line 56, Hamlet goes on to tell Horatio, who is one of the soldiers and a friend to Hamlet, about his plan to reveal the mousetrap, and it gives insight into how Hamlet is feigning madness more than he is actually mad, because it shows that there's some conscience behind how he's not just going to kill Claudius out of nowhere. He needs some reasonable proof. And although a reaction to a play wouldn't necessarily be proof to us, but in the context of such a work, when we kind of already know that Claudius did indeed kill him, it seems like he's being logical and rational enough. So, Hamlet reveals, For what advancement may I hope from thee, that no revenue hast but thy good spirits to feed and clothe thee? Why should the poor be flattered? No, let the candied tongue lick absurd pomp, and crook the pregnant hinges of the knee where thrift may follow fawning. Dost thou hear? Since my dear soul was mistress of her choice, and good of men distinguish her election, so hath sealed thee for herself, for thou hast been as one in suffering all that suffers nothing. A man that fortune's buffets and rewards has ta'en with equal things, and blessed are those whose blood and judgment are so well committed, that they are not for a pipe for fortune's finger to sound what stop she please. I'm not even gonna lie to you guys, I'm not processing anything that I'm reading right now. I'm looking at this, and it feels like Shakespeare just hit like the middle key on the keyboard on the phone and just made stuff up. Like, I'm not gonna be pretentious enough to tell you that I understood what he just said right there. I don't remember reading that. Give me that man that is not passion's slave, and I will wear him in my heart's core, I, in my heart of heart, as I do thee. Something too much of this. There's a play tonight before the king. Okay, this is the portion that I understand. There's a play tonight before the king. One scene of it comes near the circumstance which I have told thee, of my father's death. I prithee, voice to thee. Girl, go on. Give him heedful note, for I mine eyes will revert to his face, and after we will both our judgments join in censure of his seeming. And so what he's essentially just explaining there to Horatio is that he's going to put on the play, and that if we do indeed see that the uncle reacts with guilt, then the ghost that he saw was King Hamlet. But if he does not react, then it was a damned ghost. So it was a ghost pretending to be King Hamlet. It was simply playing a trick on them. And so that is how he will decide the judgment of King Claudius. But I think we will end it there. I'm honestly quite tired. This was very relaxing for me. I'd like to do more readings of different things. If anything, I was really interested in doing a reading of The Yellow Wallpaper. I think that that's an incredible feminist literature piece, you know, about also old understandings of the human psyche and how we react to mental health and treatment. It's almost kind of like psychologically unnerving. You know, it's unnerving the way that it progresses. But that was some little bits and pieces of Shakespeare and my own commentary, of course, because I talk too much, but that is okay. That's why I'm here. You guys appreciate it. I appreciate it. I feel very sleepy. I am going to try to get some rest. And I'm going to keep finishing up schoolwork. So until then, I'm just going to do what I can and do my best and enjoy the process as I approach closer to summer, which is very exciting. Actually, I have an interview for an internship tomorrow, which is fun, but a little scary. I think I'm trying my best not to really even think about it at all, because like if it's meant to be, it's meant to be, and if not, then if not. And I will not fret, because I'll say and explain what I can. Otherwise, the rest is